Before we start the video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon so you get all our updates. The movie starts, and we learn that at one point, crime rates in America skyrocketed. It got so out of control that a group called the New Founders took over and decided to find a solution. What did they do? They created something called Purge Day. It's not a full day, though just 12 hours each year when anything goes. Murder, theft, any crime you can think of without facing any punishment at all. But as soon as those 12 hours of Purge Day are over, committing any more crimes is strictly forbidden, and everything goes back to normal. Unexpectedly, this twisted idea was a massive success, with crime and violence rates plummeting in ways that were hard to explain. People poured all their anger and hatred into Purge Day, which meant they didn't feel the need to commit any crimes for the rest of the year. Because of how well this idea worked, my friend, it's been happening every year like clockwork. And now, in 2022, we find ourselves on Purge Day again, watching Mr. James as he heads home. We learn that James works for a company that specializes in creating advanced home security systems, which has naturally become a crucial product with many customers thanks to Purge Day. Mr. James is really smart and extremely good at his job. He's so good that he sold his custom security systems to the entire compound where he lives. Now, James arrives at home with his wife Mary, his daughter Zoe, and his young son Charlie. Mary tells him he needs to deal with Zoe because she's talking to Henry again, a guy Zoe loves. But he's older, and James doesn't approve. James assures Mary he'll handle it. Meanwhile, Zoe is currently sitting with Henry, and then they say goodbye, because the purge is about to start very soon. Meanwhile, Mary steps outside and by chance meets her neighbor and friend Grace, who gives Mary some cookies, kind of a gesture since it's Purge Day. Grace starts talking, and it's clear she's very jealous of Mary and her husband James, mainly because of James's success with his security systems. But Mary doesn't pay much attention, leaves Grace, and goes back inside. As soon as Mary enters the house, her son Charlie follows her with his camera. By the way, he has a camera attached to a strange-looking robot that moves on the ground. After a bit, James, Mary, Zoe, and Charlie gather for dinner. When they finish, there's very little time left before the purge begins. Quickly, they all head to the monitoring room and activate the security system, which locks down the house completely, ensuring nothing can get in. They sit down to watch TV, where a government broadcast is praising the purge and other related things like education. The speech ends and an announcement declares the start of the purge. At this point, everyone in the family goes off to do their own thing. Zoe heads to her room, only to be surprised by Henry standing there. She's shocked, but Henry calms her down and explains that he sneaked into the house during dinner to talk to her father about marriage. Though Zoe was initially uneasy because it was happening on Purge night, she agreed because she loved him. Meanwhile, Charlie was wandering around the house with his camera and accidentally entered the surveillance room. He noticed a man outside the house, running away from someone. He rushed to check the cameras and found the man pleading for someone to open their door as people were chasing him to kill him. Charlie, feeling sorry for him, opened the door. He disabled the house's security system and called the stranger inside. Everyone in the house heard the commotion, so James quickly reactivated the security system and rushed to Charlie. Before he could understand anything, Henry appeared, pulled out a gun, and shot at James. Yes, Henry wanted to get rid of James to be with Zoe. However, James wasn't hit and managed to kill Henry. Zoe, devastated, took Henry to her room. Meanwhile, James realized the stranger had used the chaos to hide inside the house, but didn't worry about it, and took Mary and Charlie to a safe room. James searched the house, eventually finding Henry dead in Zoe's room. James was upset as he didn't want to kill anyone, but he moved on and started looking for Zoe. However, before he could find her, Charlie and Mary called him from the surveillance room. James saw a gang gathering outside, and the gang leader spoke through the camera, telling James that they were hunting the homeless man they had let in. The leader informed James that heavy equipment was on the way to breach the house unless they handed over the stranger. The leader warned them that time was running out. If they didn't hand over the man soon, they would force their way in, leaving no one alive. To show they meant business, the gang cut the power to the house, plunging everything into darkness. James, feeling the pressure, urgently told Mary that they had no choice but to find the man and give him up before it was too late. They began a frantic search, combing every room and corner of the house. But Charlie wasn't happy about throwing the poor man to the gang. Charlie grabbed his camera and started scanning the house, hoping to locate the stranger. After some tense moments, he finally spotted the man and discreetly guided him to a hidden spot within the house, trying to buy them some time. Outside, the gang leader grew impatient, repeatedly calling out for James, demanding to know why it was taking so long. He accused James of deliberately protecting the homeless man, insisting that there was no reason to delay. James, now sweating under the pressure, tried to calm the situation by explaining that he wasn't protecting anyone, he simply hadn't found the man yet. The leader didn't believe James and killed one of his gang members to show that he didn't care about anyone's life. He threatened to kill James if the stranger wasn't handed over quickly. Frightened, James intensified his search. Meanwhile, Zoe saw Charlie's camera and understood where to hide in case the gang broke in. Charlie, worried because the stranger was hiding there, couldn't do anything as James found the man, holding Zoe hostage. The man warned James that he would kill Zoe if they handed him over to the gang. James was forced to lower his weapon, but Mary was behind the man and tried to shoot him, missing. James then tackled the man and shot him in the side, subduing him. They tied him up, planning to hand him over to the gang. However, Mary wasn't happy about this, feeling they were turning into monsters by treating the man this way. She talked to James, telling him it was wrong to do this, as the stranger didn't deserve to die for something he had no control over. James sat alone with the man, deeply conflicted. After thinking it over, James decided not to hand the man over. He left him where he was and went to Charlie, giving him a gun and telling him to hide in a safe place. James then went to Mary, telling her they would face the gang together because there was no other choice. They armed themselves, ready for the gang. The gang's equipment soon arrived, breaking down the barricades at the door. James and Mary positioned themselves to confront the gang. As the gang broke in, James began hunting them down. One of the gang members reached Charlie and was about to kill him when James intervened at the last moment, saving Charlie and taking him to safety. James continued hunting the gang members, determined to protect his family. He soon faced two attackers who briefly overpowered him. After a fierce struggle, he managed to kill them both. Just as he thought it was over, another gang member surprised him, but James fought back and defeated him too. When he turned to move on, the leader suddenly appeared, stabbing him and leaving him bleeding on the floor. Though badly wounded, James wasn't ready to give up yet. He managed to move, searching for his family, while the leader assumed he was dead. Meanwhile, two gang members reached Mary, ready to kill her, but two of Mary's neighbors arrived just in time, killing them. Mary was relieved, thinking she was saved, but then she saw James lying on the ground, mortally wounded. She knelt beside him, comforting him as he died. The leader arrived to finish them off, but Zoe appeared, shooting him repeatedly and killing him. The gang was finally defeated. With James dead, Mary and her children were left devastated. Their neighbors, led by Grace, who I mentioned earlier, then entered the house. Mary thanked them for their help, but Grace revealed they only killed the gang to enjoy the kill themselves. Mary was horrified as Grace explained that James had gotten rich by selling security systems to the whole neighborhood but had become arrogant, so they planned to kill Mary and her family. Mary tried desperately to stop them, pleading for mercy and appealing to any shred of humanity they might have left, but they ignored her. Without hesitation, they tied up Mary, Charlie, and Zoe, preparing to kill them. Just as they were about to do it, the stranger appeared, shooting one of them and holding Grace at gunpoint. He ordered everyone to drop their weapons, and they complied. The stranger then told Mary that the decision was hers whether to kill them or not. Despite everything, Mary chose not to kill anyone, showing she was better than them. She forced them to stay with her until the purge ended. The stranger agreed, and they all sat together, Mary, her family, the stranger, and their neighbors, with the stranger keeping them in check. Grace, filled with hatred, tried to grab Mary's gun to kill her, but Mary overpowered her, beating her until she bled. Finally, the purge siren rang, signaling the end of that terrible night. Mary and her family had lost almost everyone, including James, and none of their neighbors had helped, except for the stranger they had saved. As the stranger prepared to leave, Mary thanked him for his help, and he quietly left. Don't forget to smash that like button and hit subscribe. You won't want to miss any upcoming breakdowns. And hey, what movie or series should I cover next? Drop your suggestions in the comments below.